Good evening. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. Could we do a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember DeWillis?
Here.
Councilmember Dowell?
Here.
Councilmember Marks?
Here.
Councilmember Mosley?
Here.
Councilmember Wilden?
Here.
Vice Mayor Coates?
Here.
And Mayor Shaw.
Here. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we have a brief summary of current events by mayor, city council, and/or city manager. We have been doing things, honest.
Yeah, it's been busy. We had coffee with council on December 4th. City Manager Cifuentes presented, and he and staff addressed citizens' questions. Thank you to Sandra Salas, our executive assistant, for making the event happen. Saturday, December 6th was a particularly busy day, all good, starting with the stationary parade and the Christmas bazaar at the fairgrounds. There was a unexpectedly great turnout on a beautiful day. Council and the city manager had the opportunity to meet many residents. And I want to give a special thanks to Michelle Mustang from the city's Community Development Department, who did an amazing job of creating in a very short time of a city float consistent with the theme of Christmas around the world. Later that day, council took in the festive atmosphere in Old Town for the Old Town Chocolate Walk, where there were over 400 ticket holders. And then we gathered in front of the Cottonwood Community Clubhouse to listen to the Alinsky girls play their violin, and then lit the Christmas tree on top of the clubhouse. So that was very, very festive. Council attended a groundbreaking ceremony on December 11th for the new planned community in Camp Verde off State Route 260 south of Jones Ford. These homes will be factory-built homes that are designed to be energy efficient and use high-quality materials. So it will be interesting to follow the success of this new housing project. Today, I attended the inaugural Wheels and Walkers Christmas Parade. I saw Birdie there from the Verde Independent, and there were, what it was is residents of Haven Health and Verde Valley Assisted Living were not able to attend the stationary Christmas parade, and so they decided to do their own parade. And so they decorated their wheelchairs and their walkers with Christmas decorations, and then they paraded around the parking lot for everybody to see. So it was a great success, and I'm hoping they'll do it again next year. And then finally, I just wanted to give a shout out to the staff involved in the emergency repair of the water line on Elm Street between 4th and 6th Street that has been breaking repeatedly. Staff have been called out often in recent weeks, and as oftentimes happens, they were calls in the cold, dark overnight hours, and I know that this is just part of their job, but I think it's important to recognize that while the rest of us are sleeping and snug in our beds, they are out there ensuring a reliable water supply for our residents. So I just wanted to acknowledge them for their service. That's all I have.
Anyone else? Mr. Swinton.
I just want to give a quick shout out to the community. Saturday, December 13th, the Yavapai County United Way and the Verde Valley Homeless Coalition had their Share the Warmth event. It was a huge success. We've got a lot of donations. We've been going through the donations for Monday, Tuesday, 3 days so far. we are not anywhere near being done. The blankets, the coats, the hats, the scarves, everything, toys that were donated, just a huge outpour. We thank you very, very much. Yeah, it was a great event. Thank you again.
I've got two things. If you weren't an employee and you weren't at the awards ceremony, Chief Frudenthal got the Supervisor of the Year, so very nice, Chief. And he also, his team put an excellent Shop with a Cop program together. You may have seen it Saturday morning. We were running around with lights and sirens on for the kids, and I think the kids really enjoyed it, and it was an unbelievable outcome and community event, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of council, the only thing I have to add tonight is a reminder that the city is hosting the American Red Cross Blood Drive on Wednesday, January 7th at the Public Safety Multipurpose Room. The drive will take place from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. and appointments can be made through the Red Cross donor app or by calling 800-733-2767.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll continue on with the call to the public. The public may address the council on matters directly relating to city business that are not listed on the agenda during the call to the public by submitting a written request to speak form to the city clerk no later than the conclusion of the information reports updates portion of the agenda. There is a 3-minute time frame per speaker, and all comments shall be addressed to the council as a whole and not to any member thereof, staff, or audience. The mayor may direct a speaker to stop speaking and leave the podium or adjourn the meeting if anyone becomes disorderly or uncivil, makes personal attacks against any person or persons, or if the mayor determines that the speaker is speaking about items that are outside the city's legal authority to act. Now, I do have, I have two requests. One is for an item that's called to the public, and the other is an agenda item, but they're the same person. And I'm trying to recall what I have thought that there's a limitation to the number of times a person can speak to us. Has that been our procedure?
Mayor, I can't see the comments, but I assume are they on different topics? I don't believe that is a rule that the city has consistently enforced in the past.
Okay, very good. All right, so we have a request to speak about the Airport Commission applicant review process. Mr. Wagner?
Mayor, Vice Mayor Coates, council members, thank you for allowing me to speak. About a week ago, I emailed the full council regarding a concern with the process used to review applicants for the Airport Commission. I don't need to restate everything from that message, but I would like to summarize the concern briefly and clearly. As I understand it, the applicant review panel currently includes 3 unelected individuals, 1 city resident selected by the city manager, the airport manager, and the sitting Airport Commission chairman. The scores from these 3 reviewers are then combined with the scores of the 7 elected council members. My concern is simply that this structure may unintentionally give unelected reviewers influence equal to several additional council seats in a process that the voters expect to be handled entirely by their elected representatives. I believe this could unintentionally affect public confidence in fairness and transparency. I'm not assuming bad intent from anyone involved. I'm only asking that the council take a fresh look at this process, confirm that it aligns with city policy and Arizona law, and ensure that the final decision-making authority stays fully within the elected council, where the voters placed it. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you for your service to our community.
Thank you. Next, we have the consent agenda. The following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or a citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. First, we have the consideration and approval of a waiver of the procurement policy to award a contract to DAR Corps and Associates Incorporated for the completion of the electrical, engineering, design, and bidding support for the upgrades to the city's water supervisory control and data acquisition, SCADA, infrastructure in an amount not to exceed $248,860. 2, approval of the agreement between Yavapai County and the City of Cottonwood for transit service and authorization for the mayor to execute said agreement on behalf of the city. 3, consideration and adoption of resolution number 3362, approving and ratifying the signatures of the mayor and city manager on an Arizona Department of Transportation grant agreement for the Windsock and Segmented Circle relocation project at the Cottonwood Municipal Airport. 4, consideration and approval of job order number 11 with Combs Construction Company Incorporated for public safety rear parking lot reconstruction project in an amount not to exceed $999,946. 5, consideration and approval of the Cooperative Use Agreement 1 GPA contract number 22-15P-01 with Cactus Asphalt for the City of Cottonwood fiscal year 2026 pavement preservation project in an amount not to exceed $750,000. Number 6, consideration and approval of the surface and overhead navigation easement by and between Laird Real Estate LLC and Arizona Limited Liability Company, grantor, and the City of Cottonwood, a municipal corporation of the state of Arizona, grantee, Burger King, 888 South Main Street, APN 406-04-045R. Number 7, Resolution 3373, authorizing the city manager to accept surface and overhead navigation easements on behalf of the city. Are there any items that anyone has a question about? If not, you may offer a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so going back then to number 3 and number 7, I'll read these into the record now that they have been approved. Consideration and adoption of resolution number 3363. This is approving and ratifying the signatures of the mayor and city manager on an Arizona Department of Transportation grant agreement for the Windsock and Segmented Circle relocation project at the Cottonwood Municipal Airport, P52. 7, Resolution 3373, authorizing the city manager to accept surface and overhead navigation easements on behalf of the city. Okay, we good?
On the resolution number 3362, you said 3363. If you could reread that, please.
Okay, consideration and adoption of resolution number 3362, sorry. Approving and ratifying the signatures of the mayor and city manager of an Arizona Department of Transportation grant agreement for the Windsock and Segmented Circle relocation project at the Cottonwood Municipal Airport, P52. Sorry. Okay, moving on then to new business. The first item under new business is consideration of adoption of ordinance number 769, adopting City of Cottonwood Employee Manual 2007 edition, revision number 4.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Amanda Wilbur, Human Resources Director. And as you just mentioned, then in the title, I am here before you this evening to discuss a proposed change to our employee manual, specifically in Section 6, which is compensated time and leave. Within our proposed changes, there's really two main changes. One change has to do with our compensatory time section. We have one position that there's been some discussion, I guess, about where that position really should fall within our chart of our maximum allowances for compensatory time. And this language really clarifies for specifically that department and position, really where that position should lie. Just in general, compensatory time really is the ability for someone to keep their overtime as time they can use later on. So you don't get paid out for the extra overtime on your check. You can use it as leave later. It's completely the employee's choice to do that. You can only have up to a certain maximum accrued before you automatically get paid out, though we don't want people to have too much time that they're not getting paid out extra, even though it is their choice. So that first change there, it has a very minimal impact. It really impacts one position, and it's really to clarify for the department, for that position, and for us, really where we stand on that particular maximum. The other item involves holidays. So currently, the city has 12 holidays. The proposal is to amend our employee manual to include Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve as holidays as well. There are, of course, some pros and cons to that. Pros, of course, are employee morale. It's always nice to be able to have more time with your family, specifically on days like Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. There's typically a lot of employees that are gone or out during that time anyways. That is also another tool in our recruitment and retention belt. We've talked about that before. This is a way that we can set ourselves a little bit apart from other employers as well. On the more negative side, of course, we always have some employees who have to work on those days regardless of whether it's a holiday or not, and it does have a financial impact on the city. So we had some estimated numbers, thanks to finance, from our recent Thanksgiving holiday, because that's actually a very similar setup to what this proposal would be. Because for Thanksgiving, we have, of course, Thanksgiving as our holiday. Everywhere is closed except for our public safety and on-call employees, like in utilities and public works, that might be called out for a leak or some other emergency. But then the day after Thanksgiving is a designated holiday for us as well, but we do have some partial openings. For example, all of our admin offices are closed, but the rec center has adjusted holiday hours. Transit still operates during that day. So there are more people who are working on that type of day. So we expect that this proposal would be very similar to that setup. Looking at the numbers, the 40,000 that was notated in your packet was rounded up a little bit. We expect it to really be closer between 30 and 35,000. Some of that, of course, really does depend on people getting called out for emergencies. The other impact with that, our public safety, for example, even if they're not necessarily working on one of those designated holidays, they still have a full work week. So they may have already worked 40 hours in a week, and then they still would get the holiday pay because we've designated it as a holiday. So that is where some of that impact comes from. So adding 2 additional holidays would likely fall between $60,000 to $70,000 extra that would be spent on our employees to be able to make that happen. So with that, I know that's a very brief summary. Those are the only two proposed changes within the employee manual adjustment. I'm definitely open for questions or clarification from council.
I guess my question would be, why before the holiday and not after the holiday?
Well, that's a good question. This particular item here focuses on the actual permanent change in our employee manual. So this year, Christmas is on a Thursday and New Year's Day is on a Thursday, and the Friday would be a logical day, but that's not how it falls every year. So this actual proposed change makes it permanent moving forward, and we felt like Christmas Eve, typically there's a lot of other holiday things going on at that point too. The next item on the agenda focuses on this year, where we could talk about that as well. We have a separate item for that topic for this year, because any changes we make by ordinance really go into effect 30 days after an ordinance is approved. So if council approves this ordinance with this change to our employee manual this year, we really don't get to take advantage of that. We don't get that benefit this year. So you would have to do something separate to approve a change for this year, because 30 days is after the proposed amended holiday days in this particular context, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the second question I had, I thought there was discussion at some point of the employee manual not being in the purview necessarily of city council. It could be becoming more of a city manager document than council. Is that something we're still moving on? Is that?
Somewhat. I think we've talked about that some too. Currently, the way, I know we've talked before, we're in the middle of revising our manual, so there are some newer sections and some very old sections. Our most updated version of Section 1 does give the city manager more authority than we had before to have additional supplemental policies, whereas council approves the overall main, like, bare bones policy of some of these things. The city manager could make supplemental policies that clarify that. That's the way it stands right now. We haven't really dove in with Mario on what exactly that's going to look like moving forward, although we are working on our next section, our hiring section currently.
Okay.
I know that
understand why
wasn't really a
this one.
super clear answer.
Yeah, no, I understand why this one would come to us anyway, just because it's a conversation that's obviously
Right.
funds tied to it.
Right.
But I also want to make sure the city manager has the ability to make changes, inside his purview to things that we don't want to have to wait 30, 60, 90 days for it to get to a council meeting, that you should have the authority to do. So just my thoughts.
Sure, Councilmember Dowell through the mayor. Absolutely, I think we had some previous conversations when council gave me some additional authority about making that change. Moving forward, ultimately, the HR department and I will work together on kind of creating a document that ultimately would be approved by council, but it would grant me a lot more authority over the day-to-day operations to be able to do those type of changes as administrative regulations, so to speak.
So the part of the question that we're asking then, and this kind of goes to you, Mr. Gaylord, why is this under the guise of an ordinance rather than just a change in policy or something like that?
Mayor, members of the council, the short answer is because that's how we currently have it set up. What Mr. Cifuentes is talking about is switching to basically a different organization of our rules, but until we do that, the current organization is that we have a council-adopted set of rules that were adopted by ordinance before. And so what we're doing now is we're adopting a document that you adopted by ordinance, so we're doing an ordinance to adopt it. On the specific subject matter, I would note, in my opinion and experience, it's not uncommon for a council to identify the holidays. And so I don't think you're doing anything that's unusual or out of line. There are a lot of municipalities that have their holidays established in their city code. This is something short of that, but it's kind of similar, right? As that council has been the one that identified which holidays we were going to recognize. There are other municipalities that handle it the way Mr. Cifuentes is recommending, which is that they push that more into the policy realm. But anyway, again, the short answer to your question, Mayor, is we're doing it because that's the current organization until you change it.
Doing it because that's the way we've always done it.
That's right.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I would also add that in this particular instance, because the cost estimate is something that cumulatively would exceed my budget authority, I would bring it to you folks regardless. I've made a commitment to you that I won't exceed any authorities or anything like that. Additionally, these are, when Amanda and I ultimately work on a policy, these are the type of things that I don't believe a city manager should unilaterally decide anyway. This is something where, as a general rule, if we're going to be closing those days, we'll be closed to the public, and that's less service to the public, and that should be a council policy decision, not something that I or any city manager should make.
Mayor, you ready for a motion?
Well, I just want to make a comment about this. As you may know, I'm a retired school teacher, and over the course of time, it used to be, back in the olden days, we had Thanksgiving Day and the following Friday off, so we had a 4-day weekend. Well, that was pretty good. Then school district said, well, everybody's leaving on Wednesday anyway, so and what the heck, let's just add that one too. So pretty soon we had Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday off. Now Thanksgiving is an entire week for the one-day holiday. And I do want to comment that when you push out, when you add another holiday to it, and you talk about the lack of productivity, the lack of productivity just gets moved to an earlier day. So, I do want to be cautious about just jumping in and wholeheartedly, I am supportive. I'm going to offer my support to this, but at the same time, I am hopeful that supervisors will be mindful of the fact that it is costing taxpayer dollars to support this, and that, productivity needs to remain objectively high during this period of time, and that we don't keep circling back to try to, compensate for the lack of productivity by adding holidays. Are there any other comments about it? If not, I'll let you go ahead and make a motion.
I make a motion of the adoption of ordinance number 769, adopting City of Cottonwood Employee Manual 2007 edition, revision number 4.
I'll second.
Okay. Can we do a roll call vote?
Can I make a point of order? Because the suggested motion in the item says revision number 4 to the 2008 employee manual. Can we clarify whether it's 2007 or 2008?
I believe the official version that is actually labeled on the manual says 2008, although I have also seen it listed as 2007 other places previously. So I think we've been working off of the 2008 manual currently.
I'll amend my motion. Okay. So I make a motion to adopt ordinance number 769, adopting City of Cottonwood Employee Manual for the 2008, or the newest edition, revision number 4.
I'll second that.
And I apologize, I didn't catch the two different numbers ahead of time.
Councilmember DeWillis?
Yes.
Councilmember Dahl?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Coates?
Yes.
And Mayor Shaw.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Okay, following on the heels of that, number 2 under business is request to designate Christmas Eve Day and New Year's Eve Day as city holidays for 2025.
Hello again. As mentioned in the first discussion, anything approved by or adopted by ordinance does not take effect until 30 days after that approval. Christmas Eve Day and New Year's Eve Day falls before those 30 days are up. So we are submitting a separate request for council to consider allowing Christmas Eve Day and New Year's Eve Day be designated as holidays for this calendar year in 2025. They have the same cost estimations. I know Councilmember Dowell just asked a question about why not Friday. Council can do what they want, really. You can decide to do that if you want. But really, we were following in line with what the proposed amendment to the employee manual was. So again, I'm open to any questions.
So this year would make sense maybe for Friday, maybe not other years.
That's right. We can complicate it or not.
Hey, you can be extra generous and do both days if you want.
No, I move that we designate Christmas Eve Day and New Year's Eve Day as city holidays for 2025.
I'll second.
Okay, can we do
No.
a roll call once again, please?
Councilmember DeWillis?
Yes.
Councilmember Dahl?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Coates?
Yes.
And Mayor Shaw.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Thank you.
And if I could, and because these were in the same vein, if I could, I do want to read into the record that we have adopted ordinance number 769, adopting City of Cottonwood Employee Manual 2007 or 8 edition, revision number 4.
I think if you left it up to the city manager, he, as a Red Sox fan, he would like any reference to 2007. Just want that to
Be stricken from the record? Yes.
Okay, number 3 is consideration of adoption of ordinance 770, proposed changes to chapter 2.100 of the Cottonwood Municipal Code regarding the Airport Commission's composition and duties.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Rod Probst, City's Airport Manager. So the Airport Commission was formed in 2007. The current chair thinks it was 2005, but I'm going with 2007. And it was formed to advise the City Council. It mentions nothing about an airport manager, and it really is to give you input on the operation of the airport and the subsequent noise that it generates. It's in the municipal code under chapter 2.100. And as you all know, noise has been an issue long before I got here. And city staff is proposing these changes to more adequately have the appropriate body hear noise complaints. And the changes would change the composition of the commission and some of their duties. Currently, there are 5 members on the commission appointed by council. This proposal, this ordinance would change 4 of the airport tenants or aviation users or expertise from 4 to 3. Out of the 3, 2 would have to live within the city limits. 1 could live outside of the city limits. The 2 remaining positions would be representative of the general public. They would have to be citizens that live within the city limits. Also, the language would include that the Airport Commission would address noise complaints And additionally, that the commission chair would work with the airport manager to set the agenda for commission meetings. The commission heard this at their December 3rd meeting and unanimously recommended that these changes be made. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any of those?
I don't have any questions, but I have some comments. First of all, the city manager said that I should highlight that there's a typo in duty F, which currently reads polices, and it should be policies. Initially, I agreed with this proposal, but on further reflection, I recommend instead that there be one member from the public rather than two, and that 4 of the 5 managers have airport working knowledge, and have all 4 members of the commission with airport working knowledge be from city limits preferably, or allow 1 member from the surrounding community if they are a tenant, lessee, or user of the airport. And let me just explain why I'm recommending this. So, as you noted, Mr. Probst, commissions are created to advise council on members, which can be complex and require specialized knowledge, like historic preservation or planning and zoning, things like that. These commissions therefore need to be populated by subject matter experts. And to me, having 40% of your commission comprised of non-subject matter experts doesn't fulfill the purpose of a commission. And as I was thinking about this practically, I could see a scenario where if 2 of the 3 subject matter experts can't attend a meeting, you're still left with a quorum, but in this example, you would have 1 subject matter expert and 2 members of the public, 2 non-experts. And I don't think that's acceptable in terms of voting or decision-making. So I would recommend having 4 of the 5 members be subject matter experts or persons with airport working knowledge. This would mean 1 seat for a member representing the public interest, which is really very typical of commissions or committees that I have observed in my professional career. I appreciate that staff has proposed these changes to the composition of the commission to ensure a blend of aviation and non-aviation folks. I just don't believe that changing the composition of the airport commission as proposed is the best way to do this. I'm also recommending that all members of the commission be from city limits with a possible exception. So as background, the city clerk had informed us that Cottonwood's rules generally require that members of any of its commissions live in city limits. And this is not unique to Cottonwood. This is common practice across municipalities. She also informed me that in Cottonwood, the Historic Preservation Commission is an exception where limited non-resident experts, non-expert appointments are permitted if such individuals demonstrate substantial ties to Cottonwood. So while I would prefer to have all commission members be city residents, I think it could be acceptable to have a non-Cottonwood resident living in the abutting county land or Clarkdale as one of the airport experts if they can demonstrate a substantial tie to Cottonwood, such as being a tenant, lessee, or user of the Cottonwood Airport. So again, what I'm proposing is 1 member from the public rather than 2, 4 of 5 members having airport working knowledge, and having all 4 members of the commission with airport working knowledge be from city limits preferably, or allowing 1 member from the surrounding community be a tenant, lessee, or user of the airport. So I say this after careful consideration of the city's proposal.
Because of the technicality of their knowledge must be to be on this commission. I tend to agree, but I'd love to know your thoughts and what do you think the current commission would think about this?
I think that the current commission has 4 aviation experts or tenants. It is not uncommon in my experience of 32 years to have airport commissions where members of the commissions may live, for example, in Sedona, but have a hangar here in Cottonwood. That is not uncommon at all. When I was in Fullerton, I had hangar tenants that lived in Oceanside, which is a long way from Fullerton. So I think your proposal is absolutely fine. The intent was to get more public the opportunity to be part of the commission. And I think that 4 aviation experts or tenants is fine. It really was an opportunity for the council to weigh in on having more non-aviators be on the commission.
One of the issues that we have with commissions, though, is filling the commission positions. And so I just want to ask the question. I was not at the last meeting, but is it partly because of the desire to fill these commission seats that our airport commission thought that this might be a path toward keeping people on the commission?
I don't think that was their intent. I can tell you again, based on experience, most airport commissions consist of airport users or tenants, and not the general public. And 5 is a pretty good number. I've had commissions that have had 9. They become unwieldy. We currently have 3 vacancies as of today on the commission. And so once the council makes a decision on this, we will move forward with the clerk advertising for those positions.
Well, another question might be, do we have to have a clear decision about the absolute composition? I mean, can we say 1 or 2 or 3? You know, can we leave some leeway in here to leave room for candidates that council might favor, not necessarily because of their expertise, but possibly because of their level of interest, or, you know, I don't know. I'm really not sure.
Madam Mayor, I think you can do anything you want. Might be,
Thank you, Mr. Rhodes. I appreciate that.
It's really a lawyer question, and he's going to say it depends.
Not anymore, I'm not. Mayor, I would say it depends on what you want, because I agree with Rod. I mean, you can say whatever you want. What staff is giving you is advice on how it's typically done in other places and the purpose that we think is going to be served by these commissioners. So, you know, I think to Rod's point, you know, I think staff's recommendation of, you know, having tenants or persons with expertise, the idea is that this, you know, this board is making recommendations to you, you're making the decisions on many things, and ultimately they're helping manage the airport. And so if they understand how airports work, they're going to be better at managing the airport. If you have a different opinion, of course, that's staff's recommendation, and I would agree with Rod, is that you can establish the membership of this commission as you like. It's your policy function.
Yeah, I would suggest that we could at least phrase it as no more than 2 could be non-residents, and they have to be have some airport knowledge if they are non-residents. That has, I think, been a continuing requirement, but we could just phrase it a little bit differently and put a limitation on how many, you know, how many non-residents we would allow to participate on the commission. Is that possible? Is that sensible, doable?
Mayor, I'm going to limit myself to just the first question. It is possible. The rest of that is up to you,
Okay,
I think.
thank you.
Right. I am in support of having all the commission members be members live within the city limits of Cottonwood. I believe that's, to our best interest. It's our airport, and I'd like to see that. What would be the value of having someone from Sedona, other than that they use our airport? Is that...
It is typical for airport commissions to have non-citizens on the commission because their aircraft is in a hangar or tied down at that particular airport.
How many do we have?
On the commission right now, you have one whose
Okay.
term ended on December 7th, who does not live within the city limits,
All right.
but has been a longtime user and hangar tenant at the airport. And the mayor's absolutely right. It's hard to find people that want to do this job, and they're not paid for it. And depending on what's going on at the airport, it can be fun or not so much fun.
Do you know by percentage how many tenants of the airport are non-Cottonwood residents?
It would be a swag if I gave you a
Okay.
percentage. I mean, the majority, I would think, are, local, maybe not inside the city's limits.
Right.
But the issue is hangars are always, there aren't enough hangars for people that want to put airplanes in hangars, everywhere I've been for 32 years. And so if I had an airplane and we had an open hangar and I could put my airplane here, but I lived in the village of Oak Creek, I would do that.
So I'm in favor of Councilmember, Vice Mayor Coates' recommendations, and I do believe that, we should be open to a non-resident who has strong ties, who has strong ties to the airport. And I think we need the expertise on the commission in order for the commission to fully execute all the duties that are outlined for the commission. I've mentioned this before, in my 1 year on council, I don't believe there's anything that the commission is moved to council, related to their duties. So I'm in favor of having the expertise.
And I am also in favor of Vice Mayor's proposal, and I think we're looking for knowledge more than anything, and I think that's the best thing for the city, in the city's best interest as well, to do that.
I am in agreement with Vice Mayor Coates and her proposal.
Okay. I do have a member of the public who also has something to say about this. So before we vote on the modification to what has been proposed by the commission, I'll invite Mr. Wagner to come up and speak.
Well, now I have two items I'd like to respond to what we just talked about, and then I have another short item on this subject, and that is, how many of you were subject matter experts when you were hired to run the city? Probably one. So how many subject matter experts do we really need on the airport commission? We have an expert right here that we hire, just as we have a city expert, city manager, that we hire to make sure all of you are doing correctly. Okay, so I'd like to speak shortly about item F in Chapter 2.100 of the Airport Commission Ordinance, which assigns the commission the duty to recommend airport budgets, rates, and fees. Under this ordinance, 3 of the 5 airport commissioners must be tenants or users of the airport. Those commissioners pay hangar rent, tie-down fees, or other airport charges under Arizona law, specifically ARS Title 38, Article 3, Section 38-503. A public officer who has a financial interest in a decision must disclose that interest and refrain from participating. That means when the airport fees are considered, 3 commissioners are legally required to recuse themselves. Only 2 members remain and a quorum cannot exist. As a result, the commission can never lawfully act on fees as the ordinance is currently written. This is not a concern about individuals, it is a structural conflict in the ordinance itself. Unless the composition is changed, such as having 3 non-user resident members and 2 user members, or fee recommendations are removed from the commission duties, this conflict will continue. I'm raising this so council and city legal can review it and ensure the ordinance aligns with the state law and functions as intended. Thank you.
Mr. Wagner, have you received any responses to your inquiry about this issue?
I'm sorry. Say again?
Have you received any responses to your emailed inquiry about this issue?
I have not received any email responses from the city council.
Okay. Well, one of the salient points that I will make to you now is that the Airport Commission does not get to enact policy at all. They merely recommend to us. And so there is no conflict of interest as far as I can see. Now, we can also, we're here in a public meeting, we have the city attorney available, we can ask him, but from my understanding, because they can consider rates and fees, and they don't have to recuse themselves because they are not enacting them. We are, exclusively. They have no power to do that. Is that correct?
One moment, please, Mayor. I have to think of a different thing to say besides what Councilmember Dowell just stole from me. No, Mayor, in any particular vote or a particular decision, a member of a public body has the opportunity to seek a legal opinion about whether there's a conflict of interest. And I don't want to give the opinion without knowing what's being voted on, that something's a conflict of interest or not. But as a general principle, I would point out an analogy, which is that you, the members of the council, are required to live in Cottonwood. You, the members of the council, set sales tax rates in Cottonwood, which you then all have to pay. You, the members of the council, set all city fees. You set, water and wastewater fees. You set parks and rec fees. You set, user fees for various city services. You're required to live in Cottonwood, so you're all going to pay those fees. That's not considered a benefit to you, right? Because those are the fees, right? If you use the service, you pay it, and it affects everyone equally. So I don't think that there's a structural issue with a commission that encourages airport tenants that's going to recommend fees that apply at the airport. I also don't think there's a structural issue with a council that's made up of people who live in Cottonwood who are just setting the fees for services in Cottonwood. I think that's intended. When you look at what is a conflict of interest, you're talking about a direct financial benefit to a person, something that's, again, I think the word is benefit, right? Not just an impact. It's not that there is a fee. How is that helping you? How is that providing you with something that's going to sway your opinion? So, case-by-case decision, Mayor, but as far as structural issues, I would say that I think this is very similar to the way most fees are set. They're set on a general basis by people who might someday pay the fees.
Right. Okay. Thank you. All right. We have a variety of concerns about the residential structure here. Councilmember Mosley says everyone should be from Cottonwood. Vice Mayor Coates says at least one person, only one person can be a non-resident. And there seems to be general agreement with her. I have suggested that the wording could be modified to include no more than two, but But I'm all right with one person. I think that's reasonable. I think it's reasonable. And I also think it's good for the commission that we're not so limited in who we can have on the commission that we can't, that we have to require everyone to live within the city limits, because we have a lot of people in the surrounding area who could add significantly positively to the efforts of the commission. So let me know what you want to do.
I agree with Vice Mayor Coates on the percentage of aviation expertise, but I agree with you on maybe the non-citizens, because if we have expertise within the airport that don't live here, they could still serve, such as Rob pointed out that, if we had somebody who lived in the villages and somebody who lived, just outside who had airport, an airplane at the airport, I wouldn't be objective to them being on it, because I don't want to lose expertise and not be able to fill spaces necessarily either, because I don't know if you're going to find 5 people who want to sit on a commission who live in the city of Cottonwood with airport expertise. That might be a hard task.
It would be 4 with airport working knowledge, because the other one is the public person. So what you're proposing, Councilmember Dowell, is up to 2 of the 4 could have airport working knowledge, but live outside the city limits.
Yes.
And I wouldn't say no more than.
No more than.
But no more than, indicating that we would prefer that it would be less than 2,
Yeah.
but could, in a pinch, be 2.
I just wanted to address Councilmember Mosley's comment. I'm with you. I would prefer to have everyone from the city. And I think given our recruitment challenge on the commissions, I think that's why I initially recommended 1. Yeah.
Okay, so are you okay with limiting it to no more than 2 non-residents with expert knowledge? Or do we need to keep it? Because that would be a more minor qualification to what the commission has already recommended.
Madam Mayor, if I can just add some clarification to that while I read it. It currently states the commission shall consist of 5 voting members. 4 or 3, you folks will make that decision tonight. Members shall be tenants or lessees of the Cottonwood Municipal Airport, or shall have a working knowledge of aviation matters. So I think Ms. Wilbur will also tell you that historically, this is the only commission that we have not had a problem filling. It's the other commissions that we struggle getting members for. And so I don't think it's necessary, unless council wants to, which is your purview, to take into consideration concerns about filling this commission, because that has not been an issue historically. I think the language as written is good. It focuses on the lessee and the tenant, which would be the vast majority. As Mr. Probst said, that tends to be what his folks are. They either have a hangar there, or they have a lease in a larger capacity there. And then the deferral that council ultimately would make the choice could be that they have that working knowledge of aviation matters. And so then council could decide, and I'm just trying to lay this out to get some direction, because I believe what's coming is a motion to approve an amended ordinance, and my trusty city attorney here says we need to be very clear on the language that we're adopting as part of that amended one. And so that's why I just need that language. So with regards to the makeup, I think we're pretty good. It would just be, is it 1 or no more than 2 community members, not be tenants or lessees of the airport, nor shall they be required to have that working knowledge. But that member or members, depending on what you choose, shall be required to live within the corporate limits of the city of Cottonwood.
Right, what I had proposed was one. And
Okay.
I think there was general agreement on that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
The proposal also talked about adding the duty of hearing noise complaints, which was currently not in there, and that the chair would meet with the airport manager to set the agenda for commission meetings, which is not in there.
And those are both good changes.
Yes.
Since nobody else is saying anything, I'll say that. I think that's fine, and in general, I think that the commission's recommendation on the makeup of the commission is fine, too. I just want to modify the language in a very minor way. But if, in general, if everyone's preference is to limit it to one person from outside, that's right, isn't it? One person from outside the city limits,
Correct,
but with expert knowledge.
correct.
And that's what, in general, we're debating here. I'm saying no more than two, which, could be one.
I'm comfortable with one, just saying one in the language.
Okay.
Vice Mayor, you going to give a motion, or you want me to?
Yeah, it's too convoluted, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I don't think so, because I think they're doing 4 and 1 instead of 3 and 2.
Any guidance from,
3 and 2,
they're conferring.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're just checking, because I think at its most basic,
Except they're, so they're changing it, except they're reversing this.
right, but they're sticking with it as it sits today instead of the recommendation, correct?
No, because right now, at least one.
And then adding the noise duty and the meeting with the manager. That would be the only two changes.
Oh, okay, okay. Yes, we have it correct.
Good luck.
Is it, Mayor, may I?
Yeah.
If I understand the motion, currently, the rule is 4 members are tenants or lessees or have aviation knowledge, and 1 is a public interest member.
Right.
Currently, 3 of the 4, we call them subject matter experts or tenants, can live outside the city. We are changing that to say only 1 of them can live out the city. So 3 of them could live outside the city, 1 has to live inside the city. We're flipping that. Currently, there is 1 non-tenant, non-expert member. That person has to live in the city. We're leaving that alone. So the only change we're making, it's currently 4-1, we're leaving it 4-1, and now we're changing within the 4 tenants or experts, instead of requiring 1 to live in the city, we're going to require 3 to live in the city.
Plus the duty of adding. Plus hearing noise complaints.
So what I would suggest for your motion, if that's correct on that, if the other sections are unchanged from what's in the agenda, I
Right.
think it'll be more clear if we just say that.
Okay,
We're approving what's in the agenda with this one change, and then state what the change is from what's in the agenda.
and then how do we change the other 2 additions?
That's in the
That's
agenda.
It's already in there?
Yes,
Yeah, it's-
yes, the other 2 are.
Oh, okay, I didn't think it was in there,
proposed.
okay.
The draft that's attached to your agenda packet
Right,
will
that-
show those other
that
2
part,
changes.
okay.
If those are okay, then, you're adopting those as is. as
Okay.
in the packet.
So we move to adopt what's in the agenda with one exception, that is that there be 4 members who are tenants, lessees, persons who have working knowledge of the airport, and that 3 of those must live in the city. And that's the only change?
And just for clarity, we would leave the current rule, which is 1 member shall not be a tenant or lessee or be required to have knowledge, but will live in the city. That's different than what's in the agenda packet. It's the current law. We're leaving that alone, so we're not making the changes in the agenda packet on that item.
I'm confused. So the last point was about the member of the public, and that's not covered in the agenda package.
The agenda package suggests going from one public member to two.
Right.
You're rejecting that change also.
Correct.
So for the record, you
So
should
there's
state.
two changes.
That change in the agenda, you're altering that also.
Yeah.
To leave it the way it is in the current code, instead of making the change
Okay.
that's in the agenda packet.
Okay, so let me give this a try. So I move to accept the agenda package with the following exceptions. First, that of the 4 members who are tenants, lessees, or persons with a working knowledge of the airport, that 3 of those 4 members must live in the city. And the other change is that instead of 2 members of the commission being from the public, only 1 member be from the public.
Second?
And that member must live in the city.
It's already in there, though, isn't it? Yeah, it's already in there.
Well, that was it.
It's in there.
That's right, isn't it?
Yep,
Is that correct?
that is correct.
Okay, first and second. I did a second.
Okay, roll call?
Councilmember DeWillis?
Yes.
Councilmember Dow?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Coates?
Yes.
And Mayor Shaw.
Yes,
And the motion carries.
thank you.
I feel like we just did trigonometry.
I needed a table, a chart for
Yes.
that. Somebody should. Okay. Good job, everybody. Number 4, review, discussion, and approval of the 2026 calendar of city council meetings.
Madam Mayor, members of council, in an effort to be proactive, we took a look at what the calendar looked like for the 2026 year, anticipated potential holiday conflicts, the League of Annual Cities and Towns Conference, and have made a recommendation for the 2026 calendar, which would in advance cancel the January 6, 2026 meeting, which would take place after the newly adopted holidays, which would increase the time that folks are away from the office and does create some difficulties in getting agenda matters approved. It would also do a similar cancellation for the July 7th council meeting. The August 18th council meeting would be canceled due to the League of Arizona Cities and Towns conflict. Tuesday, November 3rd, 2026, which is election night. Sometimes that can be uncomfortable, I guess is the word I will put on it. So we'll leave it at that. Yeah, I've taken part in many of those. And December 1st, just because it's, again, after the Thanksgiving holiday. Understanding that these are simply my recommendations, staff's recommendations, council could choose to proactively determine that some of those meetings might want to be scheduled in advance. As usual, I've made my commitment to you folks that should something arise that we need to have a meeting in between those times, we could schedule a public special meeting and bring those matters before council, and we would do so. And so with that, I'll leave it up to any questions or concerns.
Can you scroll on to the second page for me, please? Okay. Any questions about any of this?
Yeah, I'm in support of this. I think my only concern is that there's 5 regular meetings that would be canceled. And so I think as the city manager said, that, please do, if city business needs to be moved forward, then please do schedule a separate meeting to attend to that business.
I'm also comfortable with the same issue. because we can't, this is not set in stone. We can always have that special meeting or call another meeting if we need to, so we all know that.
Any other comments on this? I'm okay with it.
It's good, that the public knows when our meetings will be going forward a year. It's good that we know.
I move to approve the 2026 calendar of city council meetings as proposed for January 26th, July 7th, August 18th, November 23rd, December 1st to be canceled unless we need to call another or meeting on that same day later.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember DeWillis?
Yes.
Councilmember Dahl?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Coates?
Yes.
And Mayor Shaw.
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Number 5, under new business, is discussion of the recently created Yavapai County Water Resources and Open Space Committee and consideration of a request by the Yavapai County Board of Supervisors to appoint City of Cottonwood representatives to the committee. I will mention that Vice Mayor Coates and I went back and forth and thought, well, you might want to include people with more expertise than the electeds here. However, I don't really see any reason to hesitate to appoint representatives to this committee, and I'm certainly willing to put myself forward as someone with an interest in, I don't know that much about water. I know more about open space, kind of. I was on the Parks and Rec Commission for a long time. I don't know if I'm helpful in that way, but I'm willing to learn.
I would recommend that Mr. Whitmer be on that board because he's the only person that we have on staff or on council that is an actual professional in the matter of water for the Verde Valley.
I agree with you, but that's not what the request wasn't stated in that way.
Is it possible that we say, we believe that we want to have both an elected official and a water expert present? And just, to say, we think that that would be optimal.
Ms. Coates, through the mayor. And that's part of this is good discussion. It's part of why I did the suggested motion that way. From a staff's recommendation, if we're making an actual recommendation, I would recommend that an elected be appointed as the primary and Mr. Whitmer would be appointed as the alternate, because both of them could attend the meetings. Ideally, a committee like this, and Madam Mayor, I think when we had our first Monday meeting, there was conversation about, well, there may be additional committees and that sort of thing. And so ideally, it would be good to see the electeds at the top level and creating a working group or a subcommittee of staffers that have that particular expertise in water that could then do analysis and reviews and report to the committee body. And so that's just my thoughts on the process.
Well, I don't believe I would be in favor of moving forward with this at all unless Mr. Whitmer was was one of the representatives. We have, when we're talking about water, we have water rights that are in litigation. And to me, that's a very sensitive subject. And I'm looking at the newspaper article regarding this committee and reading the introductory letter from the committee, and I'm just not sure what the committee is. I mean, I understand from a very high level. I'm just not sure how it's going to get there. I mean, they have done this before, and it went defunct in 2014. I see where Supervisor Check says what's different, where, it's more active at a state level. I'm just not, I don't feel comfortable with this, and I feel much more comfortable if Mr. Whitmer was a member of the committee, especially in light of, that we have litigation pending.
Everybody has litigation pending.
That's absolutely right.
And so this doesn't necessarily have to do particularly with that. It is related. It's related to getting, having an overview and understanding of everyone's claims to water rights. And I don't know what the committee is going to do, but so far, it hasn't been formed yet. So let's get our voice in there first. And, then if we decide that it's not worthwhile and not something that we need to pursue, then that decision can be made later. It's been disbanded before. It can be disbanded again. But right now, the two people who were appointed to kind of head this up were Nikki Check and Chris Kuknyo. And the two of them do have water knowledge, and, they have more of a history than any of us. I'm not aware of everyone's level of expertise. I certainly am not claiming to have any, but I'm willing to participate with the committee to learn from it. And that's what it's going to be right now, is trying to define a collective voice. And Cottonwood needs to contribute to that. We cannot sit on the side and just wait for somebody to tell us. We have to be participatory at this stage of the game.
Mr. Cifuentes, can I have Tom go up to the podium, please?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would like to hear Tom's opinion, thoughts.
I actually have.
Yes.
So I was approached this week from a City of Sedona council member about NAMWA, right?
About what?
NAMWA, Northern Arizona.
Municipal Water Users Association.
And then there's another one, isn't there? Isn't there another one?
Coconino Plateau Water Advisory Commission.
Yeah. So, from my understanding of the history of it, Tom had a huge hand in the NAMWA, right?
And the Coconino as well.
Yeah. And we haven't been participating because, for whatever reason, they really would like us to participate. But they said they didn't believe that, you may have believed that there was a benefit for us being in that at the time because of what you already have with what's going on. Again, I'm just spitting out what they said. So I guess that brings me to this also is, what are your feelings on these two organizations and this? Because I think they all kind of align to some extent. And what kind of participation should we be in these? Because, I mean, if we already have two and then this is a third water, like, where would we be at with that?
Yeah, basically, what's the projected outcome and what's the advantage for Cottonwood?
But if I can just add, I think the article that Mr. Cifuentes sent to us, where Nikki Check, Board of Supervisor, District 3 Supervisor Nikki Check said that topics and reasons for convening this conversation be to find areas of agreement where we could have some mutual cooperation. So I'm kind of in the same camp as the mayor in terms of, let's have the conversation. Let's see where there might be areas of agreement, things where the city could benefit. And I think that we could at least agree to participate and see if there are areas of mutual benefit. If not, we don't continue.
I agree. I just want to make sure that we don't have three that overlap and do the same thing. And I guess that's my biggest concern is.
You might want to let Tom answer the first question. Go ahead, Tom, tell us.
What was the first question?
Yeah, no kidding.
Madam Mayor, members of council, I didn't come prepared to do this, but I'm more than happy to talk on a subject that I'm fairly familiar with.
As far as this, when I first saw the email about them trying to start this up again, my first reaction was, wow, deja vu, we're starting over again. And there was a lot of misinformation in that Red Rock article that you received there. Most notably, it alluded to a statement that we've now got the state behind us because of Governor Hobbs. Well, actually, back in 1999, the Yavapai County Water Advisory Committee was formed specifically because the Department of Water Resources at that point in time was working on the water resource study of the entire Verde watershed. And they were aware of that. We've been working with a lot of the groups up here, a lot of the cities, when I say groups of the cities up here, and they thought it would be a good idea to try and bring everybody together to do exactly what they're talking about here once before. The big difference, though, back in 1999 when they actually were formed, the county took the lead on that specifically because they felt in order for it to be successful, they needed to have an executive director that kind of ran the operation, kept it organized, kept it coordinated, kept it moving forward. And so they did that. They paid an individual, they hired an individual to kind of facilitate, organize, coordinate the activities of the Water Advisory Committee, or the WAC as they were referred to. A big difference between this effort and that effort, because of the things that Department of Water Resources was working on at that time, most notably the watershed study of 2000, they had a focus of what they wanted to do. They had people that were very knowledgeable in water in the area at the time, which we don't currently have anymore. Most of those people have retired and moved on. And as a result, they had a list of things that they wanted to accomplish. Incidentally, at the same time, back in 1998, then Governor Jane Hull had adopted what was known as the Statewide Water Initiative. And it was specifically designed to fund studies in rural Arizona. They appropriated $2 million a year for many, many years to that program. I actually oversaw that program. And as a result of that, we identified all these different projects we wanted to do even before it was actually fully formed, the WAC that is. And so some of the things we accomplished with funding support and technical support from the Department of Water Resources, the USGS, and the Bureau of Reclamation supporting that WAC. We completed the watershed study of 2000. We completed a comprehensive groundwater study. We completed a conceptual groundwater model. We completed a regional groundwater model and a water resource appraisal study. We did all of that between 1999 and 2010. We did a lot of things. When we got to the point of actually trying to sit down and say, okay, we know what our unmet demands are projected to be through 2050. That's what the appraisal study showed. They couldn't come up with anything. There was only 4 of us that actually were trying to work together on projects to bring water into the valley here. Cottonwood was one, and the Tri-Cities were the other 3. The rest of the people said, oh, those are too expensive, we don't want to do that, we're not going to do it. And that's when things started to disintegrate. And ultimately what happened was we had 2 county supervisors, to be blunt, that had a disagreement about whatever. And that brought the WAC into the argument, and they utilized that as kind of the tool, and ultimately it was terminated. So that's kind of the history of the preceding WAC, but it came in with a clear focus of what it wanted to accomplish. This one, I have no idea what it wants to accomplish. They don't know what they want to accomplish. They want to have a discussion about, let's talk about water and see what we can do. As far as the other organizations you talked to, Northern Municipal Water Use Association, obviously known the formation of that one as well. That was envisioned as being just the municipalities working together on projects. That's specifically what they were for. And we looked at trying to get Colorado River water into the Verde Valley. That kind of piggybacked off of all the stuff that the WAC had done as well. And we looked at what it was going to cost to get Colorado River water in here, and ultimately at the end of the day, nothing. It was $1 billion project plus, which none of us cities can afford $1 billion project. We just can't do it. even as we put it as a part of a Navajo settlement, where we bring water out of the out of Lake Powell, through Flagstaff and down into the valley here, still is just out of reach. And we were looking at all kinds of ways to get water in here. Ultimately, at the end of the day, Mamwah still meets, but in my personal opinion, I think they've kind of run their life. They're really not accomplishing anything anymore. I was in on the hiring of their current executive director. When I talked to him here several months ago, I said, Ron, I feel like we need to just pull back from this thing, because we're not really gaining anything from it. And the number of meetings that you have to attend every month, you just kind of look at things and you gotta go, what are we getting for the bang for the buck? We're not really getting anything more. They're really not accomplishing anything other than they meet. They put on the Wolf Conference every year. And I just said, I see no value at this point in time. He said, well, but we do legislative tracking. I said, no, I do legislative tracking for you guys. So that is where that is. Coconino Plateau Water Advisory Committee, I formed that up there as well when I was with the Department of Water Resources. And again, we did an appraisal study up there, trying to look 50 years out into the future to see what it looks like, see what the unmet demands were projected to be. We accomplished a lot of things. They still do things now and then, but when it comes to projects, they really don't do projects. They just they lose focus, they get kind of sidetracked. Down here, the biggest problem you have here is when you start talking about east side, west side of the mountain. That's perhaps the biggest issue, because the issues that we have down here, we don't have the issues that they have up there. We have ample groundwater here. That's not an issue. Our issue is that we're going to be limited on how much we can actually use legally. Well, there's nothing that we can do about that. It's just the way things are. Up there, they've actually got an issue with supply side of the equation, unlike we do. It's not terrible, but it's a problem. So right now, my personal opinion on this group that they're proposing is, I don't really have an opinion, because they don't know what they're going to do either. They're just saying, we need to meet and let's talk. Figure out if there's something we can do collaboratively. That has been kind of beaten to death when it comes to actually projects. They talk about stormwater, but the people that are throwing this out there really have no knowledge about water, because when you start talking about stormwater, you just can't go capture it. There are surface water laws out there that prevent you from just taking stormwater at will. So my personal opinion, I don't know where it's going to go. If you want to go and meet with them, if you look at the original WAC, they started out with elected officials as well as the committee. But it came to the realization after the first meeting, none of them know anything about water. I mean, none of them. And so what they did is they formed what they call the Technical Advisory Committee. Mamwah did the same thing. They formed a Technical Advisory Committee. That's the staff people that actually know something about water, and they rely on them to actually do the work and whatever in order to get things accomplished. Does that answer your question? Do you have any other questions?
Well, I hope next time, Mr. Moore, you would be more prepared before you...
Yeah.
Okay.
It's embarrassing, Tom.
Go ahead first, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say that, the reason, it's good to take part in the conversation. It's not going to hurt anything. And the way that the letter was stated, and I've read this over and over, because it's like, why do you, Felicia asked the question first, and I was in the same camp. I'm like, why do you want electeds on a committee? And it says, ideally, elected representatives who are knowledgeable about water issues. And it's like, well, who are they? I don't know. We're just, I always like to use water analogies when I talk about my lack of water knowledge. So I feel like I'm just dipping my toe in here. And, but to be a part of the conversation is still significant. To have a place at the table still does matter. And I want us to do this. There's nothing that prevents us from bringing questions back to Tom. There's nothing that's going to prevent us from calling up other people who know about water and saying, hey, what do you think about this idea? And we can kick it around. What harm will it do? I mean, do you think that we can do any actual harm if we participate on this committee?
Madam Mayor, members of council, I think an important fact to understand is that counties have no authority to actually get engaged in water. They don't. The only thing that they can actually do now, thanks to some legislation that I helped put in place, which I wish I hadn't now, was a bill that was passed in 2006. Senate Bill 1551. That bill gave counties the authority to actually implement a mandatory adequate water supply provision. What that means is that currently subdivisions or developers that want to put in a subdivision have to go and get an adequate water supply for 100 years from the Department of Water Resources. Unfortunately, the bill that went in, that put that into play and made that requirement, which was adopted in 1973, was a buyer's beware piece of legislation, meaning that if I'm a developer that doesn't really care about anything on my application for getting that determination, I can just mark the box that says, give me an inadequate water supply determination. Because all I have to do is to the first buyer of every lot, I just have to put somewhere in the document that says, the Department of Water Resources has given us a determination of an inadequate water supply. It could have an adequate water supply, but you don't know. But at that point in time, it stops. For the second buyer on, they don't have to notify anybody. And so that's the only authority that the counties now have the ability to implement. And there's a problem with it because of the hydrology. The definition of adequate water supply means that if I'm a developer or a private water company or a municipal water company, and I want a designation of a determination 100-year adequate water supply, I just have to demonstrate that the groundwater table is not going to go below 1,200 feet below surface over 100 years. And if it doesn't, then I'm designated as having a 100-year water supply. Now, the problem with that is if you go north, Flagstaff could never get a determination of adequate water supply because their groundwater is at 1,500 feet below and lower. It doesn't work. And Yavapai County is the same way. We've got areas in the northern part of the county where you could never get that designation, meaning you could never build that subdivision if it was mandatory. And so I bring this up simply from the standpoint to address your question, and that's about the only reason really to be there is to ensure that the county doesn't do something that's really off the wall, or somebody else is proposing something that's off the wall that it could get us in trouble. Now that mandatory would not hurt us here in the valley. Because like I said, our water, we've got ample water here, and it's not going to drop below 1,200 feet below land surface in 100 years or 200 years or 300 years. But other places in the county, it could hurt them desperately. So anyways.
I don't know if you're familiar with the article that appeared in the Red Rock News, but.
I am.
Okay, so I just want to understand what issues we're actually addressing with this committee. And in the article, the Arizona Water Sentinels program manager says groundwater pumping and climate change have reduced the Verde River's base flow by more than half compared to pre-development levels.
That's not true.
And I don't want to put you on the spot in saying anything controversial. Del Rio Springs, once the historical headwaters, has been reduced to a trickle, just 5% of its original flow. 6 miles of the upper Verde have already dried up, and projections suggest the base flow at critical points could reach zero within a few decades. Sedona's water supply is stable but declining. Do you generally agree with, other than what you disagreed with, are the other statements generally true, or?
Madam Mayor, members of council, because of that article, I went back and I just did all the calcs over the last 2 days. I'd already kept them up to speed, but I decided I would use their formula for creating, determining base flows. If you look at 1964 reading at the Paulding gauge, the base flow was 15 CFS. If you look at the base flow for 2025 at Paulding gauge, it's 16. So it's 15 in 1964, is 16 today. Have we been on a downward trend? Absolutely, we've been on a downward trend. We've been on a downward trend since 1993, 92. We had record rainfalls and snowfalls, record runoffs in 1993. It is the largest runoff in recorded history. And that's typically, most articles will say, oh, from the early 1990s, the base flow has been going down. That's correct. When you've got the all-time record sitting there, what else would you expect? If you go from 64 to 96, the base flow is going up. And in fact, if you were to extrapolate that trend line out to today, the river would have increased by more than 30%, actually 40% to be exact. Well, that's not reality. That's not true. But they like to do it the other way, and they start from the 1990s, early 90s, and they start running it down, and then they extrapolate and say, oh my gosh, in 2 decades, it's going to be dry. I've been hearing that in 10 years, it's going to be dry for now 30 years. And it's not fact. It's not.
And I think this illustrates a good point, which is there are differing points of view, and so personally, I would love for the county group to come together and work together collaboratively on what is the water situation on our side of the mountain. Because the public is very confused, because they hear very different things from different groups, and it's not helpful. And it would be really helpful if we could get a group working together to develop a consensus.
And again, this is why I'm not opposed to regional conversation and regional collaboration, but again, because of, we're in pending litigation, and number two, because there is so many differing viewpoints about, differing viewpoints on the same subjects, I think to not have expert representation sitting at the table is simply counterintuitive.
It sounds...
Members of council, data is data, and facts are facts.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not up to us.
It's not a point of view.
Council.
It sounds like, to me, down to the basics as I try to be, that if the group forms, who's going to be the expertise or the expert? It's going to be you, in fairness, I think. So do you want to go and start another organization?
I created 17 of them.
So that's why I'm asking you, what do you think in reality? What's true?
I'm not opposed to going and listening to what they have to say. I would proceed with caution with regards to committing to anything long-term. If you find out that you're just sitting there meeting to discuss and that's it, then what's the point? I mean, I created 17 watershed partnerships over the course of 10 years with the Department of Water Resources. There are 2 that are alive still today, and they're vastly different from what they were originally. They seem to run their course, and then finally people have an epiphany and go, wow, what are we accomplishing here? We're just meeting to meet. And at that point in time, they just kind of disband and they go by the wayside. Or if there's no funding, because it costs money to do things. And, meeting to talk is great, but I would proceed with caution with regards to long-term. If they're actually generating something or doing something of value that benefits the city, then by all means, participate, actually, absolutely, be a part of it.
So can I go back to what City Manager Cifuentes said? It sounded like what you were saying is that by having an elected and an alternate, you felt that both could be present at the meetings?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that there's numerous regional meetings that we have on a regular basis that they're, the NACOG, for instance. The last time you were there as the representative, Mr. Marks is the alternative, and I was there as staff. And I saw several cities that had staff members that were in attendance as well. So, again, unless there's a limitation on the room, I wouldn't see a problem.
It is not this council's choice to designate Tom. It's your choice.
No, it's my recommendation.
Right. No, I'm just
Correct. No,
saying.
it's council's decision as to who the primary and the alternate will be.
But you have to be okay with a staff person going to this, is what all I'm asking.
Correct. I think, and again, I'm always open, but I think Vice Mayor Coates made a really good point that, there is a lot of confusion about what the truth is with regards to water and what's out there. And I think there is value in us being a part of something that we can at least help drive the narrative on what the truth is regarding Cottonwood's water situation, because no one else at the table is going to have that information.
It's important to understand, though, that it's not up to us to decide whether or not we send an elected representative. That's who's invited to the table. It's not up to us to circumvent that and do something other than what we've been invited to do. Initially, we're going to have to send somebody who's been elected because that's who was requested. And Tom doesn't fit the bill for that. That doesn't mean that Tom can't be consulted. It does not mean that in the overall run of things that he might not be invited to come and speak, to address issues that the committee is asking questions about. But for the initial purpose of the committee itself, someone from council needs to go to the committee meeting that starts in January and see where it goes from there. That's really all we can do in the immediate moment. We can't decide what they're going to do. We don't know. There are a lot of unknowns here. What we're trying to decide tonight is who among us on the council should go to the initial meeting. And there can be an alternate, but the alternate is also someone elected to council. Okay?
No, now I'm confused.
And I just want to clarify my comment before about asking about NAMWA and whatever, because I don't know anything about them, and I just wanted to make sure that all three groups weren't competing groups, and it didn't make sense. That's my only concern, is that we have three different groups out there and they're all competing. I'm for us sitting on this. I am. I just want to make sure that we don't have competing interests, because I don't understand that.
Madam Mayor, members of council, I'll just address that real quickly. NAMWA really isn't doing much of anything anymore. They just meet, they discuss, they talk. Mostly, they focus on the legislation, water-related legislation. Originally, they focused on projects, but they could never come together and coalesce on a project that could benefit everybody. Payson was a member of that. They got their water resources resolved with the settlement with the Gila River Indian community. So they're set for life, so they pulled out of it. Coconino Plateau is strictly on the plateau. They do studies, that's all they do. This group is unknown. They don't really know what they're doing yet, and it's starting just like the original one. Elected officials initially. That's the way it started out, exactly like this one. So, yeah.
I was confused there for a minute. I am in favor of this, being someone from the council, and the mayor, if you want to go, I mean, that's great. I would absolutely support that.
I'll report back.
No, my point was that if we need or would like Tom to be an alternate, it has to come from Mario, which I think he said he agrees, and Tom certainly has to agree to go, I would guess. That's my point, and it sounds like, yes, sir, you have a point.
Plus, with you, Mayor, Councilmember, you're just saying the way to appoint Tom would be to appoint Mario or his designee. And then, is that what you're suggesting?
Exactly.
That's the point you're making?
Exactly, yeah.
But I'm still not certain that that's what we were asked to do by Chair Mallory in her letter to us.
Right.
I believe that her intention was that anyone who would, logically, the alternate to one elected is another elected. So that's what I just got done saying. You know, and it means that Tom is not going to be appointed by anybody to be the alternate. The alternate is someone who agrees to that position. If I'm primary, if I'm the first person to go, and I can't go to the next meeting, then the alternate is someone else from the council, not Tom. Okay?
Right.
It's not, it doesn't involve staff and Mario, it just involves us on the council agreeing that yes, we'll participate on the committee, and who is going to participate on the committee. Who's going to be the primary, who's the alternate. That's what we're answering.
Okay, so there's, go ahead.
Sorry, no, you're already engaged, go ahead.
What was that? Can't see.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I got my big head in there.
No, it's joy, it's all it is, it's joy. No, I think, so there's 2 points, and I guess we probably just got to go with this one, but 2 points being, we were going to see if we could have an alternate, ask them if that would be possible.
Not walking in the door to the committee. We can have an alternate, but the implication from Chair Mallory's letter to us is that the alternate would be another elected, not someone from staff. We're not at that point. We're not at the point of trying to enforce our will, push our will on top of a newly forming committee. We have to show up first.
No, I got it.
Find out what they're doing, and then later on, yes, I'm assuming, now, again, this is an assumption, but I'm assuming that it's not just going to be them sitting around the table and me and us talking about blah, blah, blah. I'm assuming that they're going to include some water experts, of whom Tom might be invited to speak. I know he's excited. I can see it. He's hoping for that invitation. But no, they will be, presumably bringing in knowledge from other people. But it's not up to us to form the committee.
I'm not saying that.
We can only do what we're being asked to do.
Okay, are you ready for a motion?
Yeah, go for it.
I move to appoint Mayor Shaw as a primary representative and Vice Mayor Coates as the alternative representative for the City of Cottonwood of the Yavapai County Water
Before we move
Resources.
forward with the vote,
Hold on, can I finish my motion?
You can, there can be discussion.
To the Yavapai County Water Resources and Open Space Committee. Here you go. Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
so I want to clarify. I have the letter here, and I don't see in the letter, it doesn't specifically say that both the alternate and the main representative need to be elected. That's not the way I read it. And, what I'm hearing in this whole conversation, we're not absolutely sure what issues we're addressing. We're not sure of the constitution of the committee. There's a lot of questions.
So given that, Councilmember Marks, let's agree to the motion with the understanding that we will attend the first meeting with the mayor as our representative and go from there. And we can make further decisions after the first meeting because of this uncertainty, as you pointed out.
Yeah, if I
Would that
can
be
be
fair?
trusted to do so, I'll report back and let you know what's being discussed.
Is there some
And I
question
will
about you
also
being
share the
trustworthy?
information with Tom. But in absolute sense, perhaps not. Perhaps the letter doesn't say that. It says, it does say ideally, and the ideal, that's where we started this conversation, you see. Felicia and I both agreed that it would be best, why do they want us? Why don't they ask for water experts? But that doesn't seem to be, my interpretation of it is that's not what they seem to be asking for. They want elected representatives. That's how I'm reading. Is it absolutely necessary? Heck, I don't know. But can we go and find out, and then I'll report back? And if we can make changes to the representation, or we need to at any point in this process, we certainly can. Can we not? Because we're the council and we can make this decision later.
So I can second Councilmember Dowell's motion.
Thank you.
Could we do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember DeWillis?
No.
Councilmember Dowell?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
No.
Councilmember Mosley?
No.
Councilmember Wilden?
No.
Vice Mayor Coates?
Yes.
And Mayor Shaw?
Yes.
And the motion failed.
Okay. So I move to appoint Mayor Shaw as a primary representative and City Manager Mario Cifuentes, or anybody he designates, as the alternative representative for the City of Cottonwood to the Yavapai County Water Resources and Open Space Committee.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilmember DeWillis?
Yes.
Councilmember Dowell?
Yes.
Councilmember Marks?
Yes.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yes.
Councilmember Wilden?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Coates?
Yes.
And Mayor Shaw?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Okay, council member request for future agenda item. Does anyone have a contribution to that?
I have two requests. And one is to have the airport commission do some type of progress report. And this doesn't have to be, anytime, immediately or, even within the next few months, because I know, we're going to kind of reconstitute the commission, but I would like to get it on the schedule that, they are reporting to the council their progress on their duties.
I would second that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Right now, there's only one member, if I remember correctly, so it might take them a while to stand up. But yes, I agree.
Thank you. And I apologize for stepping on you when you were doing your motion. I thought you were done, but you weren't.
Do we need to vote?
I apologize.
Do we need to vote on that one? We have a first and a second. Should we vote real quick on?
On my apology?
I
or
would
on
prefer
that?
that, yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And we're coming up at mid-year of our fiscal year. I would like to get a budget update from Ms. Lennon. It has been way too long since we've had her up on the podium. Right.
Yes, we can do that as well.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any others? Hearing none, I'll move on to claims.
I move to approve the claims of December 16th, 2025.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye. I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Why do you always get the motion to adjourn?
I'm the loudest.